Two teams run out onto a floodlit pitch. The crowd erupts into a roar, and the nerves begin to flutter. The referee raises his arms, and it's go time. The pitch is the same in measurement for both teams. Seats the same number of people in both their grounds, and maybe even an equal number of home and away supporters. But there is, for the home team, a sense of familiarity. Knowledge of how the dew forms in the evenings, where the wind will swirl from a summer's day. A few subtle things that may make a difference between winning and losing. It is the home advantage. Kaya FM talks about the Afropolitan. But who is this Afropolitan? In simple terms, the Afropolitan is as different and as familiar as you are. A superficial look at the background of these Afropolitans will lead you to thinking that this is a complex consumer class, difficult to understand, and perhaps even intimidating. Nothing could be less accurate and further from the truth. The Afropolitan has been around for decades. It represents people who are driven, well-educated, socially aware, and family-oriented. This is not a sudden emergence of a new class. However, Afropolitans existed in the times of Sophiatown in the 50s, they existed during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. It's a class of people who were there before independence, who will be there for a long time to come. The early Afropolitan was self-motivated, successful individual, despite considerable odds. Innovators, leaders, powerhouses. These were men and women that built a thriving middle class and upper middle class in the shadows of a society violently opposed to it. They were resourceful, resilient, and determined. The legacy remains in the Afropolitan of today. They too are ambitious, prudent, successful. The black middle class has spending power of 400 billion, to be more specific. Looking at South Africa's economic and political background, it's not inconceivable that there be markets who have not been considered. A market that is undervalued, underbanked, underinsured, under-researched, and most of all, underestimated. Marketers experienced in growing brands in different market segments will tell you, on the surface, things generally appear different. But when you look closer, you will find behavioral similarities. Look deeper, still, and you will find unique nuances that distinguish. But it takes a keen eye and an authentic desire to understand, to see the fine detail in the fabric that makes us unique. There is much you can quantify, and when you do, the similarities are evident. The field looks to be the same length and breadth. For instance, middle-class consumers generally have similar needs and behave in similar ways. As a radio station that interacts with the Afropolitan consumer on a daily basis, Kaya FM has available insights into history, journey, and evolution of the Afropolitan, and how brands and advertisers can position their messages within this valuable consumer class. The insight on these subtle differences is where we find the difference between good and great, or winning and losing. There's never been a better time to ask the 400 billion rand question.